What's up, everybody? Welcome, welcome, welcome to the show. Welcome, everyone. It's your girl, Samantha Lee, and I'm back and I'm better. Let me get my hair together, y'all. My bad. I hope you guys can hear me. Um, what's up? Welcome, everybody. It's Sam. Thank you guys for showing up as always, showing up and showing out. Let me go ahead and get my TikTok family going. Y'all, I apologize. My trainer decided he wanted to mess me up with my workout, Lord. So I'm here. We gonna do it. We gonna do it. So what's up, everybody? Welcome, welcome to the show. Let me say hi to everybody that's in the chat. Raphael, what's up? Come on. Street Juice. What's up, Street Juice? What's up, Jason? What's up, Jason in depth? Hooray, 400K. I was going to mention that, but I thank you for mentioning it for me. Yes, 400K. Go, Sam. Go, Sam. Go, Sam. Go, Sam. Go. Oh, look at yeah. 400K, baby. What's up? Okay. So I'm very excited about that. Thank you guys. I see Jason in depth. I see Tommy Overalls. I see Pam. Thank you, ma'am. I see Sabrina Souls in the chat. I see Truth is in the chat. Keyshawn's in the chat. I'm seeing a lot of people in the chat. Ian, thank you. You're abundantly gorgeous. Thank you. I'll take that. Okay. Okay, y'all. So I'm gonna go ahead and add our TikTok family. I don't know. Let me make sure I get it. Get it going. I'm gonna have to get a new phone here. I'm gonna have to do my own little thing here. TikTok be playing with me. I ain't gonna lie to you. Make sure I'm sitting pretty. Okay. So yeah, anyway, let's get it going. All right. So guys, I want to make sure. Let me do my do not disturb because I want to be focused. I gotta be focused. Okay. So anyway, y'all, welcome to tonight's show. If you guys don't know, my name is Samantha Lee, and I'm back and I'm better. I just love that. I just love when she said that. So tonight's episode is going to be an interesting one because family, God had told me, and I don't really like how these jeans are fitting me right now, but it's okay. God had told me to start studying biblical relationships. Okay. And so with that being said, I really took it upon myself to look at it, like to look at biblical relationships. Why? Because Sam want to be in a biblical relationship. I want to be a biblical woman. I want to be a woman of God. I want to be somebody blessed. Okay. I want to be somebody blessed. And so I am going to talk about some things that people do not recognize and realize. We hear these stories, people talking about they in a Ruth season, they Esther, they're this and they're that. But the reality of the matter is, do y'all know what it takes to be a Ruth? Do we know what it takes to be an Esther? Because some of y'all have no idea what it takes to be these women. These women just weren't. It wasn't just a fanciful love story. There was purpose in what they did, and they did things in a faith way. And so I really, really do want to talk about this tonight because I want to make sure you guys understand and know what it means. Like when we say we're in our Esther season, when we say we're in our Ruth season, there's a calling on that. That's not just I'm getting a husband. That's I'm stepping into an assignment. Okay. And so we're going to talk about what those stories are because I really enjoy, and I'm thinking about doing this, y'all. This has been on my mind, but I'm thinking about doing like a Bible. I used to do Bible studies a while ago. A thing, if you guys know, back in the beginning of my YouTube days, I did a Bible study and it was called Miracle Monday. I did this Bible study with Real Talk Kim. Shout out to her. And yeah, I did it for, I think it was like 2 years. I stopped because your girl wasn't living right. Let's be real. I wasn't where I needed to be in my faith. And I think God took me away from it because I wasn't where I needed to be to really lead people closer to Christ. And so I do feel like with all the things that God is doing in this season of my life, if you watch my podcast, you're going to know more about my journey. I'm going to share with you guys a journey that I believe God has taken me on, and I want you guys to be a part of it. To make a long story short, like buzzword, you're going to watch me move. Okay. So I will be moving. I am leaving Atlanta. And so I have not ever left Atlanta on my own. And so this will be you might find me in your city. You don't know. You don't know where God is going to lead me. And I'm actually surprised about where he's leading me. Like, I'm actually really surprised. But you're going to find all of that out on my journey. You have to go to the More Than Just Pretty podcast channel to know what that journey is going to be like. I may not tell you where I'm at, but you're going to know I'm not here. All right. I'm going to be leaving Atlanta. And you know your girl's been in Atlanta. Okay, I've been in Atlanta. I've been repping in Atlanta. I've been Jersey and Atlanta up. But now God is calling me out. God is calling me to a whole new world. So when I've been singing this song, Whole New World, I had no idea that God was going to call me to a whole new world. And so I will definitely, this is a faith move. This is a big move. I'm a little nervous, y'all. I ain't gonna lie to you. But I know that God is with me. I know that he is already preparing the place for me. He's already preparing the steps for me. And I know I'm going to hit that new city like it stole something. Y'all know what time it is. Y'all know what Sam do. Okay, so I'm a listen. You might walk down the street. You might see Sam in your city. Wouldn't that be exciting? You see a little mixed girl coming to wherever you are. Okay, who knows? But is my hairstyle is coming. No, my hair, I no longer do Rod, I don't know if you've been watching, but I no longer do hair content. I stopped for the Lord. The Lord told me my husband don't want me to be seen like that. Not like that. He wants me to be seen, but in purpose, not being, advertising in any way, shape, or form. My man is possessive. Nope, protective. I like possessive. So if my man watching, I'm cool with you being possessive. You go ahead and be possessive. I like that. But for the people, I'll call you protective. I'll call you protective to the people. You and I both know you possessive. But anyway, I will be moving out, and I will be going. I'm going, y'all, to the West. I'm going to the West. Y'all know that I'm an East Coast shawty. I've been in the East Coast most of my life. I've been East Coast most of my life. New Jersey, right? Born and raised in Jersey. Then came to Atlanta. I've been in Atlanta deep. Only time I went to, got out of here was when I went to California a couple times. But your girl is going. Yeah, your girl is gone. I don't know where God must be leading me somewhere. My man must be praying for me to show up in the city. That's what I'm saying. I think my man is saying, God, if she shows up in the city, it's time. And I'm like, okay, God, I'm going. So I will go ahead and guys will be able to watch me in my journey as I pop up in somebody's city. Okay. And that'll be fun. So, am I excited? I'm excited, y'all. I'm nervous as well. I haven't moved, on my own, with me and my daughter, we have an Abraham journey. This is an Abraham journey, y'all. I have no idea what's going to go. I don't know what's going to happen. It's an Abraham journey. Okay. I'm trusting God completely in this journey. I have no idea what's going to happen. All I know is that he's telling me to go, and I'm going. And this is probably one of the biggest faith moves I've taken in my life. But I believe that God is going to show up, and he's going to show out. And I'm going to show you guys that God is faithful. I'm going to show you guys that when God tells you to move, even when you don't have a plan, God is going to show up. And I believe that with all of my being. I believe it with all of my being. Y'all are going to see God move in my life, and it's going to be a testimony. And I hope it encourages each and every person that's watching me to walk in faith. But this is what brings about this topic tonight, because God said, Sam, I want you to look at these biblical relationships, because I said, God, why do I got to go? Why does Sam got to leave? Why Sam gotta leave? Why Sam gotta leave? Why Sam gotta leave? Why Sam gotta leave? And listen, I struggled with God. I fought with God. I'm like, God, this don't make no sense, God. This don't make no sense. The man's he's supposed to show up at my house with a chariot, and then I get on the back of the horse, and then we ride off into the sunset. Like, that is how it's supposed to go, God. Like, it's not supposed to be me moving. And he was like, have you read the Bible? I'm like, now don't try my gangster, guys. You know I've read the Bible. But no, have you read the Bible? Have you read the Bible? And I said, I have. I have. And he said, okay. So what do the women in this Bible do? Right? What do the women in this Bible do? And family, I'm going to start with a story that somebody told me, because y'all, it rocked my world. Now, I know we hear a lot of people talk about Ruth. I know we hear a lot of people talk about Esther. I know and some people talk about Rebecca as well. But in no part of that Bible did a man come and sweep the woman from where she lives and take him home. It's never happened. Doesn't happen in biblical times. Why is that, Sam? That's a Disney myth. It is not a biblical truth. Women were always taken from their land. They were always removed from their home, from their hometown, from their families. And they were always positioned in the field or in the city or in the town of the man that they would eventually meet. And I'm going to start with them. I'm going to start with that, because I think that right there just knocks people's socks off. You say you Ruth, you say you Esther, but you're not willing to leave anything for anything. Well, this is where my support system is. Sometimes, family, God is going to call you to move. Sometimes God is going to call you to move, because ultimately where you are is not where he planted you. Where you are is where your family planted you. And so some of us are so stuck in being in comfortable places with our family. But no woman in the Bible, and I repeat, no woman in the Bible stayed in her hometown. Not one. All of them had to leave. All of them had to go to a new land. All of them. And they were led by God to a land where they were found in the right position in the land of the man that they would eventually marry. Let's take it to Ruth, baby. Let's take it to Ruth. Ruth. Y'all, let's talk about Ruth. Let's talk about Ruth. Right? Because I was talking to God about this. I'm like, God, what does this mean? Somebody said, no, they prophesied over me, and they say, you Ruth, you got to leave your land. I'm like, well, I got to leave my land. My husband can't come and get me. He can't come pick me up in Atlanta. It's not hard to pick me up from Atlanta. I'm like 130 some pounds. You can take me. Look, just pick me up. I'm not like, I ain't as big as I might look on the screen. I'm a little smaller, I'm kind of fun size. Why he can't come pick me up? Listen, you know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, come on. Woman prophesied to me, and she said, no, you're Ruth. And I said to myself, what does that mean? She's like, study the book of Ruth. So I studied the book of Ruth. And as I studied the book of Ruth, y'all, Ruth's love story is it's not Disney. Ruth is not Disney. Okay, Ruth, let me tell you about Ruth. Y'all know about Ruth? Let me tell you about Ruth, y'all. Let me tell you about Ruth. So y'all, let me tell you about Ruth. Ruth. We find Ruth in the book of Ruth because Ruth got a book in the Bible. So we know her story is significant. Ruth, we see in the beginning of her story, she has a husband. That husband passed away, and she was living with her husband, his brother, and his mom, who was married as well. The husband of the mama, the daddy, and the two sons all passed away. So they had kind of been together, and all the men in their family passed away. Well, at that time, Ruth was still of childbearing years. So when you were in that position, you would go back to your family, and your family would then find you another suitable home. Why? Because the most important thing in that time was for that woman to have a baby, namely a baby boy. We're not gonna sanitize the text. It is what it is. The point of the biggest thing was to carry on the name of the family. That was important. Okay, so the women in that time, that's what it was. They go back, you would need to go back home to your family, and your family would find you another suitable home to where you could have a child. Because that is what women really, a lot of their value came from having children, passing on legacy, right? There was obviously other things, but primarily speaking, the women in that time, it was about them being able to create them a baby. Okay, so at the time, Ruth does something that doesn't make sense. The other woman says, I'm going to go back home, because that's what she was supposed to do. See, we look at the other woman in the story like she did something wrong. No, that's what everybody did. Everybody in that time, if their man had passed, they're going to go back home, and their family's going to find them another suitable mate. What Ruth did was not normal. She said, I have so much allegiance and loyalty to this woman that I'm going to follow you. I'm not going to leave you behind. Because in that day, family, widows were impoverished. They didn't have means. Why? Because they weren't working. At that time, we didn't have a society where women worked. So yes, widows didn't have a means to an end. They were typically very poor. In fact, they had laws to where women that were widows would have to glean after everybody. People would have to leave things behind for the widows and the orphans. I don't know why this is bunching up on my thing. For the widows, for the orphans, they would have to leave. They were laws to leave wheat and other resources behind so that they would have food. Okay? That they didn't have means, right? And so you have this story where she's basically saying, I'm not going to go back home to where I can find me another man. My family can find me. I'm not going to go back to my hometown. I'm not going to go back to what's comfortable. I am so loyal to my mother-in-law, to this woman, that I'm going to go with her, even if it means I may not get married again. I may not have legacy. I may not have another child. I'm going to go to your hometown, and I'm going to make your people my people. I'm going to make your God my God. She didn't know she was going to meet Boaz. She didn't know what was going to happen when she went to the field. She went there she had no idea what the future held. She left everything she knew, everything. Her mama, her daddy, her brothers, her friends. She left everything she knew to follow her mother-in-law to a land she had never been before. She didn't know, hey, Boaz is this, that, and the third, and Boaz field is. She had no idea. She went to this town with only the thought of, I'm going to make your home my home. I'm going to make your hometown my hometown. That's all she had. She had no plans. Can you imagine that? You basically saying, because I love you so much, and because I know we done been through so much together, I'm not willing to let you go, even if it means my future suffers because of it. Today we would call that lethal loyalty. We're so loyal to somebody without the promise of a future. But Naomi in the story represents to me, honestly, represents to me a spiritual mother, somebody that really did have Ruth's best interest at heart. She wasn't trying to keep Ruth with her. In fact, she encouraged Ruth to leave. But Ruth stayed anyway. She didn't feel right leaving her. Even though what everybody else would have done would have been to go back home to your family. So she goes and she gleans at a field. She don't know who owned this field. She's just trying to get something to eat. She's just trying to provide because she is the younger of the two. So she starts gleaning at this field, and Boaz is over there, and he notices her. And I want to show you guys what it looks like for Boaz to notice you. 1 second. Let me get my sunglasses. Very important. Very important that I show you what this actually looks like in practicality, family. Very important. So this is what Boaz was looking like. He in the field, and we would assume he's taking notes. Okay? So he in his field, because Boaz owned a field. Okay? Boaz owned a field. So Boaz is over here owning the field, doing what owners of fields do, taking notes. Right? He's taking notes. He's saying, okay, they gleaning over there. Mm-hmm. And then they look over here and they say, this is what they say next. He said, well, hold on. Y'all know how men are. Look, y'all know how men are. This is what men do. Who is that? Hold on. Guys, wait, hold on. And now we know in the Bible, family, that Boaz was not a young man. He was an older man. That's why he honored Ruth for even thinking of him. So I think if Boaz was a little bit younger, he would have came at her, but I digress. It's besides the point. Let's get into the story. So you know how men are. They're over here, and there's a woman over there. I guarantee you, I walk down my new streets, they gonna see a girl. So anyway, I digress, family. It's besides the point. Let me continue the story. We have to keep it moving. So Boaz, you already know, he was like, he did it slow because he's older. Oh, who is that? Who's that? That's a new woman. I haven't seen her before. Billy, who is that? You know, bro, boss. That's Ruth. She new here, man. She's kin to Naomi. Yeah, they came back, all the husbands passed away, and she's out here in the field. Wow, that's her? Wow. He got to clean it up because he's the boss. Remember that. He can't be who he want to be in this moment. He cleaned it up. He said, "Oh, you know what? Just give her some extra, make sure she good. Naomi, my cousin. Make sure she good. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so that's what happened. He noticed her and showed her favor. So Ruth come back to the house and she's been showed favor. Right? She's got all this wheat. And Naomi's like, what'd you do? Did you steal? Like, how did you get so much wheat? And she's like, no, I'm at this man's field and he's been showing me favor. Like, they've just been giving me more food. She's like, whose field is it? She said, Boaz. Here's the thing. Naomi, as a wise woman, said, oh, he like you. He like you. And he just happened to be our kinsman redeemer. So here's what we're going to do. She said, here's what we're going to do, Ruth. And this is what we have to understand, ladies. This is what we have to understand. This is where the story for me, I don't like it. I don't like this part of the story. We romanticize the text. He didn't come at Ruth. He just noticed her and showed her favor by giving her more wheat at the time. She came at harvest time and he gave her more wheat. Her getting more wheat consistently put Naomi to thinking this man liked her. He never said he liked her, and he never approached her like he liked her. Naomi just took the hint and said, oh, you like her? Ruth, I got an idea. Here's where Sam personally, as a human being, would have went left. Okay. I would have been like, Naomi, respectfully, you're tripping. Respectfully, I'll ride with you on a lot of things. But here's where Sam is going right and you're going left. Mm-hmm. She said, and I repeat, she said, family, listen, ladies, listen to me. When you want to talk about being Ruth, I need you to understand what that means. Because she not only left everything she knew behind and had no promise of a future, she starts working hard labor in some other man's field, right? She don't know this is Boaz's field. And let's be real. If we look at the text, Boaz might have been 40 years older than Ruth. He was a much older man. So she's looking at him, not even thinking about the fact, I can guarantee you, she's not even thinking about the fact this man could potentially be my baby daddy. That thought never crossed her mind. I'm just saying. I'm just being, let's keep it real. Let's keep it real. But at that time, the most important thing wasn't about her attraction to Boaz. We never in the text even see that she was attracted to Boaz. All we know is that he showed her favor, and Naomi took it along the lines of, he's our kinsman redeemer and he's showing you favor. He must like you. He must like you. So what ends up happening is Naomi tells Ruth to go. Let's be clear. To go to this man's, she knew, or Naomi knew that there was some type of gathering going on at that time. She knew of that. So she said to Ruth, I want you to get dressed up. I want you to shower off. I want you to go ahead and get yourself together. I need you to get yourself all the way together. I need you to look good. And when this man lays down, I want you to follow him to where he lays down. Did we set the scene, family? Did we set the scene? We're learning in this text that Naomi says, hey, get dressed up, look amazing. And when this man lays down after this event, I want you to follow him to where he's laying down at. And I want you to lay at his feet. I want you to get dressed up, look amazing, to lay at his feet and pull the cloak over you. Family, let's be very, very clear. That is not what women did in that time. That was a bold move. She was to go in the middle of the night to find where this man is laying down and literally lay at his feet and uncover his feet and cover you with the cloak. That was bold. And if Naomi ran that past me, I don't even think my ego could take that. You want me to get dressed up to go lay at this man's feet? Like, she had to watch him from the party to go see where he laid down. So she gotta literally be hiding in the bushes, see where this man lay down at, and position herself at his feet. Sorry, family. If somebody ran that past me, I'm not sure I would have taken it. I'm not, we make it very like, oh, Boaz, I'm waiting on my Boaz. Ruth didn't wait on Boaz. That's what you have to know. Ruth had no idea. Ruth was not waiting on Boaz. Ruth went to Boaz. Ruth put herself at his feet. The ultimate position of submission. She laid at his feet. That was a submissive position. It could have been taken a lot of different ways. She laid at his feet and said, "Take care of me." That is what it meant when you pull the cloak over you. Take care of me. It meant, will you be our kinsman redeemer? What does that mean? What does that mean? In her own way, she proposed. She proposed. She asked him to care for her. She asked him to be her kinsman redeemer. So when we say we're in our Ruth season, and when we say we're Ruth and Esther and all these things, we have to understand that every story, there was faith and there was sacrifice. It wasn't no Prince Charming riding on the horse. In this situation, we find that Ruth, when she says this to Boaz, he is honored. He's like, I can't believe you even would think of marrying an old man like me. That's literally what he said. And that's what makes me think he was interested from the beginning, but because he was an older man, he didn't think she would be interested in him. So he actually is like, I respect you so much for choosing me despite my age. At that moment, when she presented herself to him, he then handled business. I mean, from that point on, Boaz was going to marry. Boaz was like, I'm marrying Ruth. I don't know what y'all doing, but I'm marrying Ruth. And so he made it his business to make sure that it was in order and in right standing that he would make her his wife. She had to present, and she had to present in a way that defied logic. It would not have made sense to anyone at that time. She listened to Naomi's word to the degree that she will position herself to lay at this man's feet. And now we read about her in the Bible as a woman who had incredible faith and radical obedience. But the first step she ever took was leaving her land. And what you'll see in every one of these stories, 3 shocking truths. Let's start with number 1. Number 1 is they left everything behind before they ever knew the story. Somebody talked about Rebecca. Rebecca, which I think is a beautiful story. And I'm going to get into that. But let me just make sure I hone in there. They left everything behind. They left everything behind before knowing the outcome. Ruth left her homeland. Rebecca left her family. Esther left her entire life. She had to talk to the only person that ever raised her through a gate. She left everything behind, and it really wasn't even her choice. What I'm saying is the number 1 thing that we do not talk about is in order for these women to reach the purpose that God had for them, they had to leave everything behind. Everything they knew. They had to leave their families behind. They had to leave their friends behind. They had to leave their homegirls behind. You want to know why that is? Because a lot of what we see today is that when we see that in the Bible, it says men leave and cleave. The Bible says it actually directs men to leave and cleave. Why is it only men? When you see more women in the Bible, expect every woman we see in the Bible left and then cleaved. Why is it that the Bible is saying men should leave and cleave? Because that was a revolutionary concept. Men didn't have to leave and cleave. Women always did. That was custom. They had to leave with the purpose of creating their own unit with their spouse. That is why women, it didn't have to be defined. But if we see today, family, if we see what happens today, where we don't want to leave our family, we don't want to leave nothing behind, we don't want to leave what's uncomfortable, we don't want to leave, we want it to just come to our door, we want an Amazon Prime delivery. I saw a video today that made me laugh so much. This guy was pretending to be a woman of God. He was like doing a woman of God thing, and he's like, this is how Christian women expect to meet their man. And literally he's like he's in the prayer closet. He's on the floor with a box on him. He's like looking out the door and he closes it. He's making a joke, but it's the truth. Nowhere in the Bible did women just stay home. That doesn't mean they was, and that's going to bring me to my second point. But my first point is they had to leave everything behind. And it wasn't like random, oh, I'm leaving everything behind. They often did not know the outcome of leaving everything behind. Esther had no idea the king would choose her. Rebecca left not knowing anything about the man she was marrying. Rebecca's main test, which I'm going to get into now, was she willing to leave? And here's the thing. Abraham was that dude. Because he was willing to leave his land, because he was a man who was walking in faith, he got everything he wanted. They treated him like a prince in wherever he was at. And he said, I'm not going to let my son come to my hometown. I need the woman to leave where I'm from. See, Abraham said he didn't want a woman from where he was currently living. The land he was living in was Canaan. He didn't want a Canaanite woman. He wanted a woman from back home for his son that understood God and understood covenant. He wanted that. So he went back home. He told his servant to go back to his hometown to find his son a wife, because he looked at his son. He said his son need a wife. The man needs a wife. So he sends his master servant to go find a wife for his son. And the master servant prays and says, God, listen, Jesus, please, if you hear me, make sure this woman does X, Y, and Z, and that's the woman I know is for my master's son. And I pray that she'd be willing to come with me, even though I don't have a picture of this man. I ain't got this man's Instagram. I don't have proof of employment. I don't know his net worth. I don't know anything off the top of my head. But what I do know is that he's a man of God. And I pray that it's enough for her to come. And so he goes and he meets this woman. And he's like, man, I don't know if she's going to come back, because I don't have any of the things we would need. What Abraham asked his master servant to do was countercultural. At the time, family, they had to provide proof. They had to have a betrothal meeting. They had to have all these different things before they would ever bring the wife to the husband. But in every story that you see in the Bible, the woman was brought to the man. And some of y'all are resisting moving. That was the number one thing these women did. They didn't have a job opportunity. They didn't have the picture of the man, or they had seen the man. No, they had no idea what was on the other side of that well. Rebecca had no idea that on the other side of that well was going to be a man that would lead to promise, that would have her written in the Bible, a text, the most read text, the most popular book that's ever been, ever done, best-selling book of all time. She left everything. She didn't have to. She came from a family of means. But Abraham said, I'm praying that God would send an angel before me, or before you, that this woman would be willing to leave her land to come back with you. Because I'm not going to send my son to my hometown. She got to come here. And here's what I want you guys to know. I'm going to say thank you. I'm sorry, y'all. You know, I get caught up in this. YouTube user says, you're a blessing, Sam. Thank you so much. Hivna, the Dawn says, blessing to you, gracious. Thank you, guys. Thank y'all. And CJ Ward says, appreciate you. Thank you. Thank y'all. Thank you so much. Let me go ahead. Y'all, let me blow my nose. Y'all know how this goes. You know how it goes, y'all. I get into my bag and my nose don't want to do what it needs to do. My gosh. Whew. Sorry, y'all. Unfortunately, now I got one ear. I know every time I nose, y'all. I don't understand it. Back to my point. So we see with Rebecca's story, she meets this man at the well. She just friendly, feeding him or giving him something to drink, giving his camel something to drink. Like, you know, she just friendly, just generous, just loving, just humble. And she didn't even know that encounter If she did not do those things, her life wouldn't have changed. Like if she would have went there and been like, "Who are you? Why should I give your camel something to drink? Why should I give you something to drink? I don't even know you." She wouldn't have been in promise. She wouldn't even been in the Bible. We would never even hear of this woman. If she didn't make a move, a bold move, if she didn't make a bold move, we would not be talking about Rebecca today. Because she had to have the character of a woman that would be humble and would be a servant. And not a servant like, oh, demeaning. No. She had a servant nature. She had a helpmate nature. She was beautiful, she was humble, she was friendly, and she was not too good to serve. Right? And so again, that character unlocked the ability to be able to be seen as an option. Then from there, she had to have a level of faith that she didn't need to have. Because let's be real, Rebecca could have had another man. Rebecca could have said, nah, I'm going to wait on a man that I can see. I'm going to wait on a man that come to my family the right way. I'm going to wait on a man that does it this way. I'm going to wait on a man that does it the way that I want it to be done. No, she took a leap of faith. It wasn't off of no information. She had enough information to know that this was obviously a move from God. This was obviously a powerful man of God that was sending for her. She had enough discernment to know that the risk was worth it. And she was right. But she had to take a leap of faith. Family, ladies and gentlemen, you have to take a leap of faith sometimes. It may not just be the man, it sometimes may be the woman. But I feel like we have these Disney stories where we expect men to just show up in our hometown, show up where we want them to be. Our comfort zones are not disrupted, and we think that's purpose. No, it's not. It's settling. God didn't tell these women to pursue these men. Rebecca did not pursue Isaac. Zipporah did not pursue Moses. And even in the end, when once Boaz had the idea that this woman was somewhat interested in him, he took it to the next level. He finished the job. Somebody passed him the ball, he dunked it. All he needed was a pass. He was going to score. Isaac, when he decides to he sees this woman, Isaac, they say he meditated in the field. He meditated in the field, minding his business, meditating in the field. He see a camel come up. He see a woman on the camel, riding with his servant. Servant tells him, hey, listen, this is the woman that I found. Yo, daddy told me this is what we were doing, blah, 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 blah. She passed the test. He gives him all he need to know. Isaac take her off the camel and brings her into his mother's tent. And it says he married her on sight. See, it wasn't just about the fact that these men or these women, should I say, these women made a faith move, but God used that faith move, and immediately on sight, these women were married immediately. God honored their faith. And family, I'm not saying you just move to a random city. I'm not saying you just go with whatever. You obviously go before wise counsel. You obviously do the right, when you feel God is prompting you to go to a place, you really seek the Lord out. You really try to hear when God is telling you. But some of us, we're so comfortable. We know God is prompting us to do something. But there's no story in the Bible that didn't require faith. Big faith. The type of faith that would move when you didn't have to. Leave your comfort zone. Start a new life in a new land with new people. And all you have is your faith and your trust in God. I'm not saying you move you. I'm saying when God moves you. When God moves you, do you move? And there's a lot of women that are watching me right now. This is against everything you could think. I'm not leaving my family. I'm not leaving what I know. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. Will you settle then? I'm not settling. I'm going after everything God has for me. Every miracle in the Bible required our participation. Some of us just want a miracle to happen, and sometimes it does. But when I'm talking to the ladies today, when we are working with God, when God is asking us to move, we participate in the miracles He wants to do for us. And sometimes it requires a move, a leaving of your job. Family, I'll tell you, God asked me to not renew my lease. And I'm like, where am I going to go? I had no idea where God was going to lead me. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have an understanding. All I had was a word. I prayed and I fasted. And God made it clear. And then I was like, well, I need this. I need that. I need this. God was like, nah, you need me. I am the answer. You don't need that. You don't need this. You need me. Am I enough? Am I enough? If I don't answer another question, but I told you to move, am I enough? You're more than enough, God. You're more than enough. So I hope somebody's inspired. I hope somebody's inspired to move radically for God. Because when I tell you the mountains that I thought would be mountains are actually valleys. God has moved those mountains. The things that I thought would be problems weren't problems. But I had to take a step of faith. Everything I was afraid of didn't happen. Everything that I thought was going to be a problem wasn't a problem. Everything that I thought was my answer wasn't the answer. Like Rebecca, I'm leaving a land. I don't know. I don't know what God has for me on the other side. The master servants like the Holy Spirit leading me and guiding me to this new world. And my test, which will be the test of a lot of women on here, is will you move? Will you move? That was Rebecca's test. Will you move? That was Esther's test. Will you move? That was Ruth's test. Will you move? Or will you go back to what's familiar? Will you go back to your hometown with your homegirls and your homeboys and your family that you've been raised with? Will you move? Will you move? Number two. They were not focused on finding a man, they were focused on purpose. None of these women were focused on a man. None of them. None of them went to a field looking for a man. None of them went to the well looking for a man. None of them, like Esther, didn't enter into that beauty pageant. They chose her to be a part of it. They were in purpose. When I say not to stay home, I'm not saying you find your local bars. I'm not saying you find the local hangouts for men that make a certain amount of money. I'm not saying you decide that you're going to geographically decide which state has the most single men and you go find that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying get a word from God. Because God is going to place you in the place of purpose. I know that wherever God is going to lead me, purpose lives there. My assignment lives there. I'm not going there on the streets to scout out the men in the town. No, I'm going there on purpose. I'm going there on assignment. And some of us were so consumed with finding a man that we're losing sight of purpose. Family. Look at the world today. Look at what we're seeing. We're seeing people that are having more rapture dreams than they've ever had. We're seeing more people come out and say they're seeing heaven when they have near-death experiences. In fact, did you know that 97% of near-death experiences, they say they see either a heaven or a hell. 3% don't remember it, or they have an ambiguous thought process. They don't clearly see it. But it's in the 90 percentile that they see a heaven or a hell, meaning that, family, there's a very real end date to all of us, whether it's a rapture or whether it's a death. I don't know where our story ends. I don't know what's going to happen. But what I will say is this: a lot of us are waiting on the man to make us happy. A lot of us are waiting on the marriage to make us happy. A lot of us are waiting on the money to make us happy. A lot of us are waiting on things to get us to a place of peace in our lives. And I'm here to tell you, the only way that you reach peace, the only way that you reach fulfillment is when you reach purpose. The well, somebody said to me tonight, what is the well? What is the well equivalent to? Well is equivalent to provision, because in the Bible, in Numbers 21, it says, spring up, oh well, spring up, oh well. And when I was a kid, we had this song and it was like, spring up, oh well, splish, splish, splash. We're like, spring up, oh well, splish, splash, spring up, oh well, splish. Well, Numbers 21:17, it says, spring up, oh well. That well was a sign that God was going to provide for our needs. The well was where covenant was created, where people stepped into their covenant promises at the well. People stepped into purpose at the well. So the well represents provision. The well represents living water. The well represents purpose. Some of y'all are wondering why the job isn't working, why the channel isn't fulfilling, why you're not really where you need to be in life, why you feel so lost. And I'm here to tell you, you need to get to the well. A lot of women are feeling lost, not necessarily sure who they are. Get to the well. Where is your well? Stop trying to force things that aren't supposed to be and start focusing on where your well is. Where is your well? Where is the place that God is leading you that you're afraid to tap into? Family, one of the reasons why I knew the place that God was calling me is because it was the only place I had a mental opposition to. It was the only place I was willing to argue God down about. I was like, I don't see it. I don't understand it. I don't want it. I ain't buying. I ain't selling. I don't want it. It was the only place I had a vehement response that I didn't want to go. Not because it's a bad place, not because of anything like that. It just It was the only place that the enemy brought up things that would make me question whether this was the right move or the wrong move. And family, I'd be lying if he stopped today. He still is trying to talk me off of it. That's how I knew it was God, because it was the one place that I experienced spiritual warfare in accepting. It was the one place I was arguing and fighting with myself about going. That's how I knew it was my well. Because if we in a football game, we not tackling people that don't got the ball. We tackling people that got the ball. The enemy is going to attack you in the very area God is calling you. That's how you know it's God. When you have all these mental oppositions, all these arguments, all these what ifs, all these things, you know that's God. You know you tapping into purpose, because that's when the opposition comes up. And you right, Sabrina, the devil is a liar. In fact, the Bible says he speaks in the tone of lies. He says enough truth to make it believable. It's like 85 to 90% truth and 10% a lie. You got to cast down, Alana, absolutely. You got to cast down those imaginations. So back to my point, they were not focused on finding a man. They were focused on purpose. I see a lot of women and they're focused on finding a person, finding a man, finding a marriage. Okay? That's what they're looking for. And in God created covenant. God wants to give you a husband. God wants a kingdom baby and a kingdom marriage. He wants those things. But he's not going to put you in that position until you're ready. Kingdom marriages are not just about you and not just about the person you're going to marry. Kingdom marriages are about kingdom. They have purpose. I know that a lot of the reason why God has put me through a lot of things he's put me through is because whatever I'm about to step into with my marriage is going to be earth-shattering. It's going to change the way people see marriages today. That whatever God has for me on the other side of this well, there's provision. There's elevation that comes with radical obedience. That my step of faith would hopefully, prayerfully inspire a nation that there is a God. He is very real. And when you show up, he shows out. I pray that my life shows that to everybody that's watching, everybody that's praying for my downfall. Keep holding your breath, because it's not going to happen. Breakthrough is on the way. God is going to show up. God is going to deliver. It doesn't have to make sense to you. It doesn't have to make sense to my homegirl. It don't have to make sense to my friend. In fact, I think the reason why God has women leave their home, leave their family, is because we tend to never actually latch into the relationship. It's hard for a woman to leave and cleave when I live in my hometown, because I always got my mama's house to go to. I can always call my daddy. He's going to be right there. I don't really have to latch in and make this thing work, because I always have my parents to run into. I always got my homegirl that I've known since I was a little. That may be the reason why God requires that us of women, because he knows we're communal by nature. That if we stay in that place with our family, we'll never fully latch on to what God is calling us into. That men, even if they in the hometown of their family, a lot of men will still not cleave to their family. Women do. I know I did. I know I do. I love my family. I would say I'm a pillar of my family. And God is calling me to leave them behind. It hurts. It's scary. But it's like me jumping off the diving board, and I'm trusting that God's going to catch me like he always does. They were focused on purpose. They were not focused on finding a man. And a lot of women, the reason why God cannot bring you your kingdom husband is because you want him too bad. You want it so bad, God knows that either if I give it to her, she gonna completely forget about me. Or if I don't give it to her, she's gonna abandon ship anyway. God is not gonna give you something that's gonna take you away from him. He gotta be able to trust you first. Trust that if I give you this or if I don't give you this, you still here. That's why you can't get the job. That's why you can't get the promotion. That's why you'll never have that amount of money in your bank account. That's why you won't have that amount of influence. God is protecting you from you. And some people, instead of waiting on God for the moment that he deems is right for you to be in that place of promotion and elevation, we try to make it happen for ourselves at the cost of our soul. At the cost of our soul. We try to take the shortcut, and we lose our souls in the process. God doesn't elevate just to elevate. He doesn't bring you into assignment just to bring you into assignment. He puts you in the position to drive when he knows you're ready to drive. And so when I see people saying, I still don't have the husband, I've been celibate for 82 years, or still don't have this because blah, blah, blah. It's like me saying I've been working out. Y'all, when I was in college, short story, but I signed up to do this half marathon. And I did this half marathon, and y'all, I ate exactly how I had been eating. Waffle House, McDonald's. I was eating everything I had been eating before. And so I could run 20-something miles, and I was running the miles. I mean, by the end, I had been able to run 34 miles. 34 miles. But I had lost no weight. None. I had gained weight. So the whole point of me doing this half marathon and training for it was for me to lose weight. This is in college. But I lost no weight. Why? Because even though I can run the miles, I wasn't eating clean. The only way I could have gotten to where I wanted to go, the goal was that, yes, you work out and you eat clean. You got to do both. I didn't get that concept. A lot of women tell me all the time, I've been waiting, I've been waiting, I've been waiting. But it's not just waiting. It's not just running the miles. You got to eat clean too. Because I meet a lot of women, they tell me they've been waiting. I've been waiting as well. But my waiting has not been passive. My waiting has been active. God has taken me on a journey. He has taken me through some things. And he has called me out of the boat. I've had to make some sacrifices. I've had to make some clear lefts and some clear rights. I've had to do it. I've had to focus on purpose and allow God to prove me in the process. So yes, you may have waited and you might be celibate, and that's great. But are you allowing yourself to be processed? And that is what I see a lot of times. Women want a lot, but they're not willing to give a lot. And in this process, if you're looking for a man, if you're looking for a husband, if you're looking for a job, if you're looking for a promotion, you have to give. You have to sacrifice. You cannot run from the process. Can't run from the process. God's timing is his kindness. God's timing is his kindness. God's timing is his kindness. I don't care if you sit here and you've been celibate for most of my life. I met women that say they've been celibate since 89. I was born in 89. That does not sound attractive to me. I don't want to be celibate for 30-something years. That I love that you've been able to be celibate for 30 years. I pray that I ain't got to wait that long for my man. No, I don't want to wait that long. 2 years feel like a long time. 2+ years. You know what I'm saying? A lot of that, look. I've been waiting years. 30 years? No. Like, what am I doing? You're not going through process. I can sit here and I can be waiting on God, but I don't know how to act. I don't know how to talk to no man. I don't know how to talk to no human being. I don't know. I have not allowed myself to deal with the wounds that I'm carrying. I have not dealt with the unforgiveness in my heart. I have not addressed the childhood wounds that inevitably come up whenever I'm triggered. I have not dealt with the mommy issues, the daddy issues. I haven't dealt with none of that. I just been waiting. Waiting is not passive in God's economy. David was waiting for the kingdom. He was not passively waiting, twiddling his thumbs, waiting for the kingdom. He was fighting, he was warring, and he was learning on the job. God's process is not passive. So yeah, while you waiting, you tap purpose. While you're waiting, you start tapping purpose. And in your purpose, as you're being prepared, God starts cleaning you up. God starts cleaning you up. God's process is not passive. It's always active. Number 3, third thing that you can learn from these women. They trusted God's timing in his process. They trusted God's timing in his process. Number 3, they trusted God's timing in his process. Rebecca, which y'all, we don't give enough to Rebecca. Because Rebecca was a bad mamma jamma. Rebecca didn't even know. I mean, she's being friendly. She's a servant. She's beautiful. She's now welcoming and being hospitable to the stranger that didn't even know this stranger was going to change her life. She just did it because that was her character. She allows him to come to her home where her family is. And the servant breaks down everything. I work for Abraham. He told me this, and this, blah, 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 blah. I see your daughter. I think she's a great match. The one test that we have is she willing to leave her land? He's not going to come here for her. She's got to be willing to go. And they said, we're good with her going. We're good with her going. But we got to ask the girl. We got to ask her. Is she okay with leaving? Because what that servant was asking of her to do was not customary. It did not make sense to everybody around her. That was not how they did things in that day. And without a doubt in her mind, she hopped up on that camel and left everything she knew. She had no idea where she was going. She didn't have an Uber report to know if this was a good 5-star Uber driver. She didn't have a Carfax to know where the car was going. She didn't have a Waze to see where he was taking her. She didn't know the people. She didn't do a background. She had no idea where she was going. She went anyway. Can you imagine that? Ruth. She could have went back to her hometown. She could have went back to her people. She could have. In fact, if Ruth went back home, we wouldn't have batted an eye because that was normal. She said, no, I'm going to defy logic. I'm going to go against what everybody does. And I'm going to do it the way God is telling me to do it. I'm going to follow the promptings of the Spirit. And that's why she got a book in the Bible with her name on it. Esther, like everything she knew. Everything she knew. She didn't know whether the king was going to choose her or not. She didn't know. She's in a competition with all the women in the kingdom. Yet she goes anyway. Goes through this challenging process alone as an orphan. The only family she knows has to talk to her through a gate. She does it anyway. That's not normal. That's extraordinary. It wasn't about love, although love came. It wasn't about the man, although the man came. It was radical obedience to the mission, not the man. Radical obedience to that inner knowing, to that inner spirit that was saying, yeah, Rebecca, get on the camel. Yeah, Ruth, leave your hometown. Don't go back. Yeah. Yeah, Esther, leave the only family you have behind. That inner knowing that no matter what it looked like to other people, sometimes family, we are so fixated, so fixated on what everybody thinks about what we about to do, that we do not step into the purpose God has for us. Let me tell you something. God says he uses the foolish things to confound the wise. Meaning you've got to sometimes look like a fool for Christ. I'm sure that some people think I look like a fool for Christ, but I'm willing to look like a fool for Christ. I'm willing to chase him unapologetically. I'm willing to step out on faith like these women of God. Yeah, we minimize their story, but if you really look at what they did, they left everything behind without a promise for better. They didn't know what they were going to walk into. Ruth didn't know Boaz was going to be the owner of that field. Take notice of her. She didn't know that Boaz was the kinsman redeemer. She didn't know. She was just faithful to purpose, and purpose found her. Promise found her. And some of us allow what our family's all done, what our friends have already said, what everybody's going to think, what are they going to do, how they going to do it. God is writing a bigger story for you. You don't get talked about in history following the rules and doing what everybody tells you to do. No, you got to be a disruptor, a chain breaker. You've got to be unapologetic about this thing. And a lot of women, we want things just handed to us. I want the man to just show up. I did. I ain't gonna lie. But God said, look at all the women in the Bible. Look at those wives. Those women had to be willing to walk away from everything. But I met them. Oh, y'all. But I met them with provision. I met them with purpose. And I left them with a partner, a covenant partner. That they came back with triple for their trouble, not double, triple. Ruth ended up having a son. That son was in the line of Jesus. She came back with a husband. She brought Naomi joy. Esther saved her people. She was able to take care of her uncle who had raised her, and she was able to show the world a different kind of type of woman, a different kind of pedigree of woman that was surrendered to a process that was painful, but she ended up coming out on top because she changed history of that time. Rebecca left everything behind, stepped into Abraham's family, and created the lineage of Jesus, the lineage that people lied to be a part of Abraham's line. Lied. Because Abraham was such a man of God. He was such a man of faith. People were lying to be a part of her daggone lifeline. She was the beginning of the promise of Abraham. Remember, Abraham, the promise was through your son Isaac, you will have sons in many nations. The first son was Isaac. If she didn't leave the promise, she wouldn't have been able to step into the line of Jesus' family. People were lying to be a part of Abraham's lifeline. Lying. And she, not knowing on any level how this story was going to turn out, she did not know the concordance. She did not know the how, the what, the when, and the why. All she knew was that there was some prompting in her spirit that said, go. Go. And in our world, family, we want so badly to have evidence, to make our own decisions, to not let God lead our story. And I'm here to encourage you. I'm here to encourage you. I'm here to encourage you. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm congested. Y'all know. To take a risk. To move out on faith. To not play it so safe. And when God calls you, it's not going to be logical. It's not going to make sense to anybody around you. As women, and we want to be Proverbs 31 women, we want to be Ruth and Esther's, we got to be okay with breaking the rules. We got to be okay with leaving comfortable behind. We got to be in our purpose, but not so deep into our purpose that we forget the mission. Ruth understood mission. Yes, she was out there gleaning, and that's what she was supposed to do in that season. But once Boaz came about, she was ready to be in position. When Rebecca was out getting water, yes, she was doing what she needed to do, but she was okay with a pivot. She understood that the other side of this wasn't about me just being found. This was about God doing a divine pivot. And a lot of us, because we in our careers, a lot of us, because we're in our whatever feminism bag, or we got these degrees, we don't understand the divine pivot. That yes, they were found in that position, but God had a bigger plan for their lives. We got to be willing to pivot. We got to be willing to sacrifice. We got to be willing to leave what is familiar and what is comfortable, to forsake those things and to move forward in purpose. Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I'm doing a new thing. Do you not perceive it? I'm making a way in a wilderness as I'm making streams in the desert. God is doing a new thing. And some of us, he's calling you out of the boat. Instead of just sitting in the boat, watching somebody else walk on water, God is calling you to walk on water too. Stop letting your logic determine your reasoning. Allow that inner knowing, that Holy Spirit, that guide that's within you, that knows the beginning from the end. Let that spirit guide you, lead you. Even when it defies logic. Well, especially when it defies logic. Because God is not logical. He supersedes that. They trusted God's timing. They didn't try to force it. They didn't go on 20 dating apps. They didn't answer every DM that comes into their inbox. They didn't date every man, even if they're not attracted to him. They didn't go on 82 dates a year trying to find somebody that want to marry them. They didn't have a sneaky link. They wasn't out here at the clubs and the lounges trying to find a man. They wasn't out at the whatever bull riding competition or whatever they did back then. They were in purpose when they were found. They were in purpose. Not doing the most. Not twerking on the gram. Not posing half naked. They were in purpose. Rebecca was getting water from the well. Met purpose. Ruth was in the fields getting food for her and Naomi, purpose. Esther really was looking out for an opportunity for her family. Didn't know where it was going to lead. Purpose. It wasn't about making it happen, manipulating variables. It was about saying yes to purpose. Not doing too much, just trusting God. But when God told them to move, they moved. They weren't so stuck in how they wanted things to happen. They manipulated variables, or they didn't move at all and made their not movement holy. Well, I have faith that the same God that can do it in Texas can do it in Alabama. No. God is calling you to move, you move. God is calling you to leave, you leave. If God is calling you to build, you build. He sees the end from the beginning. And his word never comes back void. His word never comes back void. So family, I want to cast out the spirit of fear in the name of Jesus. Cast out the spirit of anxiety in the name of Jesus. Family, we don't have time. We don't have time. We don't. Time is an illusion. Of an illusion is an illusion. There's a lot that's happening in the world today we could see. God is doing a new thing. And he's calling his chosen ones out of the boat to walk on water. I want you to join me. Join me in walking on water. The women in the Bible were not just scooped up, damsels in distress. No. They were women walking in purpose. Willing to move. Willing to defy logic. Willing to not do what everybody else was doing. Willing to step out of the boat. They were willing to break the rules. What Ruth did was risky. What Ruth did defied logic. What Ruth did, some people might call thirsty. Scandalous. But she did it with radical obedience. And now we have a book in the Bible. It's named after her. And people keep saying they waiting on a Boaz. That's like one of the most common phrases we see. Boaz. We wouldn't even know about Boaz if Ruth didn't step out on crazy faith. To dress up, somebody said, I've never seen Ruth as thirsty or desperate. I think it's because we don't really know the story. She wasn't thirsty. She wasn't desperate. She did something that at that time would be seen as unethical. Dressing up to lay at a man's feet. Yeah, no. In the middle of the night after he went to a party and you're watching him to see where he lays down and you lay at his feet and cover him with a cloak and you're just basically breathing and look awake until he wakes up to see that you're at his feet. That's not normal. Defies logic. Defies logic. Everybody else would have looked at that like it was crazy. But it worked. So don't be so consumed with what everybody thinks, because they'll laugh, they'll talk about you until it happens. And then when it happened, they're like, oh, well, how'd you do it? So did you do it? How'd you do it? And goes from why would you do it like that to how you did it. So don't be consumed with what people say. One day they'll want to know the blueprint. One day they want to know the blueprint. All right. All right, family, I want to thank you guys for tonight. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Just like a different spin on this particular story. I know that we've heard it a lot, but I think that me studying it in a different lens really has, it came to life for me. And so again, y'all, I am going to take you on a journey. Go to the More Than Just Pretty podcast channel. You guys will get updates on my journey as I make a big move. And I will keep you guys posted because I want you guys to be a part of it. So go ahead, like this video. I want to hear your comments as well. Let me make sure I say thank you to everybody that contributed to the live. Michael, thank you. He said some of the best and most profound stories in the Old Testament. Love this teaching. Thank you so much. Thank you. Mewtwo user, like I said, says you're a blessing, Sam. Kipna the Dawn says blessing to you, gracious. CJ says thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate you. Thanks. So again, y'all, you can watch my journey west. Well, you can start watching it now, because I'm starting to put up content about, the process to getting me to this big boot, radical leap of faith. So I would love for you guys to join me on that. So anyway, I love y'all. Comment, subscribe, like the video, and I will see you guys next week, Wednesday night. We will be back at it again, talking about whatever God puts on my spirit to talk about. All right? I love y'all. Y'all have a good night now, and I'll see you guys soon.